You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family, DNA ID, Beyond Bizarre True Crime, Zodiac Speaking, and Scene of the Crime. All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances, and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to search for their missing loved ones, in some cases even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy, and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing.
Episode 54, Elena De la Cruz. In 2021, Elena De la Cruz was a 62-year-old grandma living in the Bronx, New York. Her family describes her as sweet, energetic, generous, and friendly, but also shy and someone who kept to herself and her routine. She was a born New Yorker, but spent her childhood in Puerto Rico, until when she was 8 years old, her mother died, and Elena and her siblings were sent back to New York to live with relatives. Elena went on to have 2 daughters, one of whom, Taina, is our guest today. She tells us, "My mother was energetic and loved arts, crafts, and movies. She loved bingo and shopping. She loved cooking and doing scrapbooks and painting. She was a phenomenal dancer." As Elena got older, she suffered from disabilities that prevented her from working. She was hard of hearing and had a speech impediment, and her Spanish was much better than her English, so communication was sometimes a challenge. Elena moved into her apartment at 1616 Grand Avenue, apartment 609, in the Bronx in 2014 or 2015. This was at a building called Hill House, a federally subsidized housing complex. Elena relied on Social Security disability payments for her living expenses and needed the subsidized apartment because it's all she could afford. She lived alone, but Hill House had a staff on hand to assist the residents as needed. Elena loved participating in the housing program's activities for its residents, such as bingo and field trips. But in general, she was a homebody and had only one close friend. Her daughter says she was sort of codependent on Taina and her sister, and consulted them before going anywhere like the store. She loved to visit her daughters and grandchildren, though, so she would break out of her comfort zone to travel to do so. Elena had been diagnosed with breast cancer and underwent a mastectomy in 2016. But in early 2021, the cancer was found to have recurred, and this time it was stage 3. Her other breast was cancerous as well, and it had spread to bone, liver, and kidney. Despite this terrible news, Elena was determined to survive. She underwent treatment, and although she lost her hair, she never lost her fighting spirit. At the end of June, Elena was told that her treatment was at an end and she was in remission. She was thrilled and planned to celebrate with her daughters in July. Elena was a night owl and loved movies, particularly thrillers and scary movies. Her favorite activity was to cook up a bunch of food and watch a movie late at night with a bunch of her favorite snacks like M&Ms and honey buns. Because of her cancer treatments, she was very thin and frail, and eating whatever she wanted was encouraged as it brought her delight. On Friday, July 9th, 2021, Elena called her daughter Taina and left a message that sounded completely normal. She was going to do the usual, have dinner, and watch a movie with her favorite snacks. Hill House surveillance footage shows Elena in a mask and the bob-style wig she wore because of her baldness, and wearing a white peasant blouse with black stripes, leaving the complex around 11:30 p.m. Elena could not walk extended distances, but she was a regular at the little convenience store just a block away from Hill House. The cashiers in there knew her. She always bought the same snacks and chatted with the employees. And that night, July 9th, the employees confirmed that indeed Elena came in late and picked up the usual munchies. Then she was on her way. She has never been seen again. Hill House notified the local police that one of their residents was missing, but it's unclear how quickly this happened. Taina believes 5 days elapsed before the authorities got word about Elena. They were not too concerned initially. Elena was an adult who could have just left with someone. Elena's daughters assured them that that was not the case. By the time police checked, street surveillance cameras had already recorded over any footage of the night Elena was last seen walking away from the convenience store. There is no question whatsoever that Elena did not voluntarily go missing. She left her movie on pause, dinner still on the stove, her Kindle charging. She was physically unable to walk much of anywhere. The little grocery bag that she used to carry her wallet, phone, and purchases, and that she had with her when she went to the convenience store that night, is missing. And Elena's bank account has not been touched. Her daughter tried to call Elena's prepaid cell phone. No one answered, and Taina said it sounds as though the phone was off. There has been no contact with her since the date she was last seen, and her family says this is not just out of character, it would not happen voluntarily. Elena De la Cruz is described as a 62-year-old black female, approximately 5 foot 3 inches tall, weighing just over 100 pounds, with some front teeth missing. She has very little hair and was wearing a wig when she was last seen. Mike Morford sat down to talk with Taina Roper, Elena's daughter, about her mother's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
Hi, Taina, and thank you for coming on Missing Persons to discuss your mom Elena's case with us.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, and thank you for coming on. We want to help your family spread the word about your mom's case. It's very puzzling, and we'll get into the details surrounding her disappearance. Before we do, would you be kind enough to tell us a little bit about your mom?
Oh, wow. My mom is super energetic. Even when she had her cancer, she was energetic. She's super creative. She's a good bowling and moving partner. She likes to move, she likes bowling. But she's a homebody, and she's very kind and sweet.
And you mentioned she had been battling cancer. How long had she been fighting that illness?
So this is her second round. Her first round was in 2017. She got rid of it, and then it came back on the other side of her breast, and she had breast, bone, and kidney cancer, stage 4 widespread. But right before she went missing, she was at her last chemo, and she was already starting to go into treatment for remission.
So it seemed like she was making a recovery again and starting to maybe get past the worst part of it.
Yeah, it started coming back around, I think, September of last year. Then she was just getting through with it, letting it go.
Okay. And was your mom someone who was active? Was she able to walk places and go places despite, being ill and going through that treatment?
At the last couple of months, no. At the last couple of months, it was kind of hard for her to walk long distance. Just going to the store was probably a little difficult for her to get little breaks here and there because she did have bone cancer. But before cancer, she was very active and going all over the place and having fun.
Okay.
With the family, of course. Yeah,
and this sort of plays into a little bit of her disappearing because she had walked to a store when she vanished. I guess a couple questions regarding that store. How far was that store from her home, and was it a store that she went to on a regular basis?
Yes, it was her store. It was the closest store to her. It was not very far. If I'm thinking about in a distance map, 0.2 miles, very close, just 1 block away from her home in New York blocks. I know everyone doesn't know what the city blocks look like, but one New York City block, so 0.2 miles. And they knew her very well. They knew exactly what she was coming in for. They would have her sweets ready for her. Like I said, my mother really did enjoy movies. And so right before a good movie came on, she would take herself downstairs. It took her a while to get there, of course, you know. She'll get her little sweets and then head back upstairs and sit down and watch her Roku and her Netflix or her snack.
Okay, so this is a typical routine for her, nothing out of the ordinary. Just and who everybody watches a movie or something, they want to have some snacks while they're watching. So sounds like it was a pretty routine night for your mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she went out in house sandals, a little purse to carry her little wallet and her snacks inside. But she wasn't dressed to go anywhere special, you know. So even when she left her house, the detective told us that it looked like she was trying to come back. She didn't take her bank card. She didn't take her food stamp card. She didn't take any medical cards, no birth certificate, no social security. She left her TV on pause on the movie that she wanted to watch. And she had recently cooked dinner, so her food and stuff was still on the stove, and her bed was made. She was charging her Kindle, and her Kindle, when the movie's over, she would play like little Candy Crush and stuff like that on it. So she wouldn't leave anywhere without her Kindle, especially long term, because that's how she kept herself entertained. Yeah.
So you mentioned the movies paused, so it seemed like she had every intention of going to the store, coming right back, and then watching a movie.
Yeah.
Was there anyone with her that night before she left? Was she alone in the apartment before she decided to go to the store?
Yeah, she was alone.
Okay. So I guess once she went missing, how did someone realize she was missing, and who was it? And did you contact the police right away?
So it was kind of crazy how it happened, because my mom will go 2-3 days out sometimes without calling us, and then she'll call us every single day after that, and then 2 or 3 days, 4 days not talking, not calling us. But what happened was, it was about the 4th day. My mom hadn't called me, which was okay. I figured she was just busy or whatever, whatnot. And her housing people who always see her say, "Hey, we saw your mom leave Sunday, but we haven't seen her come back." And my mother's big thing was, she loved her housing workers. She loved everyone who worked there. So she would say, "Oh, I'm going to Tina's house." Because I lived in the military base upstate. So she would say, "I'll be gone for this day to this day. Keep an eye on my mail." Or, "I'm going to my daughter's house for the weekend. I'll see you then." So whenever she was going somewhere extensive, she will always tell the house supervisor and the house social worker that there. So always without fail. So when they didn't see her, they're like, "Hey, have you seen Elena?" They're like, No. So when they call me and say, "Hey, we haven't seen your mom since Sunday," mind you, by this time it's day 5. I'm like, "No, she's not here. She's not with my sister." She said, "Well, we haven't seen her. She walked out, Benel walked in." I said, "Are you sure?" She was like, "Yeah." So I just put now I call my mom. I'm like, ring, ring, ring. The phone, it rang a couple of times, and then you know how they forward the call? The call got forwarded, and the next thing, the phone was completely off from then on out, never to be on. Then my thing about that was July 6th, my mom she didn't have any money in the account because she paid all her bills. But every week, every month after that, she's never touched a penny out the account. And my mother can't survive without money, But after the 5 days, we were saying, okay, well, let's wait a couple of days. Maybe she just needs, I don't know, like we were just wondering, like, what's going on, So we said, let's wait for 6 days. When we went to the police department, it was within that week span. The police department says, quote, 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 unquote, she has 2 hands, 2 feet. She's a grown-up woman. She doesn't have to tell you where she's going. We're not going to fill out a police department. There's nothing wrong with her. And that's it. Walked away, didn't want. And we said, "No, you don't understand. She's hard of hearing. She doesn't speak English. She's stage 4 breast cancer. She can't walk. She's sick. She just had chemo. She's throwing up. She needs help." "Yeah, well, she's a grown woman. She's not obligated to tell you where she's going." We're like, "This is ridiculous." So we said, "Okay, let's put some time in. Maybe we'll hear something." Then week 3, we kept trying to find we kept going up. The police wasn't helping us, so we would go around, put missing folders for pictures up. We would ask the store people. We would try and ask anybody where they see her, wait in front of her building. Nothing came. And then my cousin, because I live upstate at this point, I was transitioning with the military to the state of Virginia. My cousin ended up going there, and sadly, she has to be loud to get attention. Like, hey, this is happening. So finally, someone ended up giving us a police report after 3 weeks. And so now we said, good, we have this. Now, can you ping her phone? And the guy tells me, well, she has a prepaid phone, so we can't do nothing. So we can't ping that because her phone is off. Well, she just turned it off. It's still on, though. You can still leave a message or something. She's like, yeah, well, we got to go to we'll see what the court wants us to do. They never contacted the court. We found out. Also, we kept telling them, check the cameras. He said, oh, well, what happened is on day 7, the cameras delete. So now we can't look at the cameras. And we said, we came to you in the right time and y'all turned us away. And because y'all turned us away and didn't care, now we come to you when we find out paper, you're telling us, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. So
a lot of time went by before the police really started taking it serious. And now they've lost potential video surveillance from different places that recorded over it. Who was it that first went to her apartment and found out, the movie's paused and her stuff is cooked and it's like she's planning on coming back?
The social worker and my aunt and my cousin.
Okay.
There, and my sister, I believe.
So they all go there. There's no sign of a struggle. No sign of anything happening. One thing I wanted to back up on, how did they figure out that she was going to the store? Did she call ahead to order something and say, I'll be down to pick it up? Or how did they find that out?
So early in that day, she did call me. She called me that day and she was like, because the next week, that week, the July 4th weekend, she was supposed to come over to my house, but I couldn't have company because I was in Texas. So she was going to come the following week. And so that following week was the week that we were waiting to get to them so she can come see me with my sister. And so she was calling me and she's like, oh, Taina, do you want this or that from the store? Because she always comes with a suitcase full of goodies for my son and everybody because that's the grandma person she is, right? Little shoes, a little T-shirt, whatever. And she said, do you want this? I said, oh, no, I want this. And she said, okay, I'm going to call you later. And I said, okay. And so she called my niece and then she asked my niece for $10. And my niece gave her $10 and she went to buy her snacks. And she had told me earlier that she was looking at a movie. I think it was called Bad Hair or something on Netflix. She was really waiting for this movie to drop on Netflix for the couple of weeks. Bad Hair was something that she wanted to see. And so she said, oh, no, later on, I'm going to go get some munchies. I already got dinner made. I already got my Kindle charged. The TV's on. Everything is good. I'm going to get some snacks. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, okay, well, Mom, you go ahead and get your snacks. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye, the typical whatever kind of moment, And she ends up calling me. It's 11:30 at night. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's not crazy because I'm in the military. I've moved so many places and my mother doesn't know what time it is where I'm at. Because I lived in Hawaii, that's 6 hours behind. I live in Washington, that's 3 hours behind. I lived in Kentucky. So all these states I moved to, she doesn't even care about what time it is where I'm at. She calls when she thinks I'm going to be up. So normally her late time would have been my daytime in another state or country, because of the military. So she called me at 11:30 at night, which that's just normal because she stays up late watching movies all the time. And so she calls me, but however, I am sleeping at that time. And she says, okay, Taina, just go ahead and see what you're doing. All right, well, I love you. Bye. There was no stress, nothing. It was just mommy being mommy, calling you to talk to you about whatever she wants to talk to you about at that point. And then at that point, I guess they said that's when she decided to go to the store, went to the store at that point, came back, and in the morning I called her and that was it. No other contact from there.
Okay, so and this was 11:30 p.m. her time or your time?
Her time.
Okay.
Her time.
Okay, and so she goes out, and now that's pretty late at night, 11:30. Was that typical for her to go out that time of night?
Depending on her, she was really a night person, especially that when she took her chemo pills during the daytime. It's just she just didn't feel very well to do things outside in the heat because it was a summer. It was really hot in it. Sure. So when she had that medication on her, the heat, the sweat, the chemo, it just turned her stomach really bad. But when it was dark outside, it was cooler. It was much more manageable. It was less people. It was easier for her not to have a wig and not be self-conscious about her not having hair outside, so no one's out there to judge her much more than just a rush of people. Anxiety would get to her. So sometimes she just did things at nighttime just to go in and come out really quickly of the situation.
Okay. And I guess the only bad thing about that is there's less people to see anything, so that means less witnesses to come forward and say, hey, I saw this
but
or I
to
saw
her it was
that.
a good thing that no one could see her and see her hair and stuff, you know?
Sure. Now, I know there was some video surveillance of her wearing that wig that she wore. Was that taken close to the time before she went missing?
Yes.
Okay. So that basically gave an idea of what she looked like when she was out in public with that. Okay. So I want to turn towards the store itself. Do you know if the store owners or managers, whoever were at the store, did they ever see your mom come in, or she never made it there?
No, they confirmed. They said, yep, we've seen her. She comes all the time. We saw her that day. But after that day, we've never seen her again. Well,
so she apparently made it to the store, got her snacks, and then headed back home. And whatever happened to her after she was
within that 2 blocks. 2 blocks is what happened, yeah.
Okay. And that area is at Grand Avenue in the Bronx. That was your mom's home area. She'd been there all her life. Is that correct?
No. She's lived there for probably the last 6-7 years.
Okay. Did she know a lot of people there? Was she comfortable with people there? Had she ever had any kind of problems with anyone?
No, she didn't have problems. She wasn't that type of person. She was someone who was very likable, and she didn't particularly have friends, but she was very kind. Like, good morning, how are you doing? Good morning, how you doing? But wasn't the one that, good morning, come to the house, let's eat, let's have fun, let's go party. She was not. She'd say, good morning, how you doing? They knew her well enough to know that she was going to go upstairs and be by herself at the end of the day.
Okay, so she was someone that was friendly, didn't really get into any drama with anyone, and had never had any problems there in the neighborhood. So, you mentioned sort of you're starting from behind the 8 ball, so to speak. There's days have passed by since she's gone missing. The police didn't take it serious at first, so they stalled a little bit, and then that surveillance video is gone. When they finally started investigating and taking it serious, did they find anything as far as clues of what might have happened? Any witnesses or anything?
Mm-mm. Oh. And even then, I don't know how much effort they are putting into it. It doesn't feel like it, but I work for the police department out here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and my department itself, they came up to me and said, okay, Ms. Roper, this is what's happening. Did you submit your DNA test? What happened? I said, submit DNA test? Yes, your detective is supposed to get your DNA test put in the system so they could run through any bodies. I'm like, no, they haven't done that. My job was so upset at it. My police department paid to swab my own mouth and get it sent to New York to make sure it gets done.
Well, so they essentially did the job of what the other police department should have done, it sounds like.
Yes. And they were like, why didn't they do this? I said, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you? I said, they didn't give me an option. I didn't know this was something that you do. He said, that's what you're supposed to do. 101, get your information. Get your information. You know how many bodies are laying out there, Ms. Crawford, that it's unidentified, and just a swab in the mouth can identify this? Come on. And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and he was just so disgusted that this wasn't told that this was supposed to do. We actually had to fight the police department to put my mom's, I don't know if you know what Namus is, but we was like, put her on Namus. So he said, oh, well, we don't put her on Namus until this amount of time. Put her on Namus. Like we were ones who, me and another woman who does missing cases, we put the time in to submit my mom's name into Namus, and we had to wait another 2 months before they even approved it and sent it in.
Wow.
Because they had to do it.
So now she is in Namus, though.
Yeah, it took months, though. Wow. Literally took months to get her in.
Yeah, it's good that she's in there because that is a good resource, and it doesn't make sense that the other police agency wouldn't do it sooner. You know, and we talked a little bit about your mom's health, about her being sick, but it looked like she was towards the end of her treatment and was recovering. Do you think in that condition, is there any chance that she may have been sick or just in pain, and any chance in your eyes that she would have harmed herself?
No. Yeah. My mother doesn't even kill a spider. She doesn't even my mother's very gentle.
Sure.
Yeah. And as hard as she was fighting, she wanted to live. Every time, I'm watching her get this chemo, and she said, I want this. I want to win. I want to win. I want to win, And yes, she was in pain. She had bone cancer. This chemo was rough, at times she couldn't even use the bathroom by herself, and we were there with her. But she wanted to fight. She was okay with the chemo. She took the chemo, and she took the strides. And even after she was doing this, she was still going. There was like this adult daycare around her area, and every day, even though she wasn't sick, she would walk onto adult daycare. Not every day, but every so often, because COVID came and they shut down. But she was still walking there. They told her, "Oh yeah, you can't come in here until you have a vaccination, the COVID vaccination." She's like, "Well, take my vaccination. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get back to normal and be strong and not be sick."
So she was positive and focused and not depressed or upset or anything like that, it sounds like.
She was, she did have a moment where she's like, I'm sad my hair is falling now. I'm sad that this happened to me, but it wasn't something that was going to be like, but I'm glad I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm sad that I'm going through this, but I'm glad I'm alive.
Yeah. So it seems like then the more likely scenario is something happened to her at the hands of someone else. Do you think that her, maybe being tired or weak from all the treatment she had gone through, do you think she would have been more of an easy target for someone that wanted to harm her?
100%. 100%. My mother didn't even have to even carry a bag of groceries. That's why she would buy 2 or 3 little snacks and put in her little bag and walk with herself. She was very frail. My mom went from being 150 pounds to like almost 100 pounds. She fought hard. She was fighting hard to keep her weight. Even when she couldn't taste food, she was still forcing herself to drink Ensures and honey buns, to make sure that she was staying with enough calories in her. But she still was, even when, I don't know if there's a Walmart close by you, but we would go to Walmart and she would try her best to walk. And then at some point, like, Ma, just take a little scooter thingy, and she would scooter down the aisle. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yeah. And so it sounds like she was pretty mobile, but still at sometimes would need help getting around. And it seems like she would be perhaps a target for someone that was looking for a victim to do whatever. Were there any, as far as you know, neighbors, anyone along that route from coming back from that store that reported seeing her or anything like that?
Nope.
So someplace between walking back from that store and getting to her apartments is where whatever happened to her happened. Wow. And it seems like from all the evidence, it seems clear that she went out, got her snacks, just was planning on coming back and having a normal night, and whatever happened sort of disrupted all that. Well, it's been a year, coming up on a year, or almost a year now. How tough has this been on you and your family, not knowing and sort of having to try and figure out the clues?
It's been tough because, my son was really, really, she's my mom, and my son is super attached to her by the hip. And then, when she's not here no more, at least my mom, she'll be with us almost 6 months out of a year just to be next to my son and make sure she's at his soccer games. And she would sit there and cook dinner and teach him how to cook certain things. And now that's not there, so he's missing that, and having to say to my son, "Did you find grandma yet?" We say no. And she says, "Is she dead?" And we said, "We don't know," but it did take a toll on my little one and my sister's children as well. She was very good with her grandkids and her children,
Yeah, something like this touches so many people because, it's not just the adults that have to worry about it, but then you've got grandkids and things like that are wondering and you don't really know what to tell them. Very frustrating. It just seems like such an area that there would have been witnesses and stuff. But again, at that time of night, probably made it so it was dark. People couldn't see as much, or weren't as many people out. And had there been, there might have been someone that saw something. And then the waste of time getting started and missing out on the surveillance video certainly didn't help things. Wow.
Now it's more like just a wash of the hands. And literally, it was funny because I text my mom's old cell phone. Well, I didn't text this lady named Erin. She texted my mom's old cell phone, and it shows that the message was read, but no one responded to it. And so we told the detective, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we'll look into it," and we haven't heard anything from that neither.
Wow. Well, and that, you bring up a good point. So someone may have had the cell phone she was using in order to read that message, but just no way to determine who that is. Was there anything of hers as far as a purse or anything else that was missing that hasn't been found yet?
Yes, so she had this little blue you know those little bags they give you when you're in store to avoid using plastic bags, the little recyclable cotton bags.
Mm-hmm.
She left a blue little bag, and I'm pretty sure in there she had her phone, her bank card, and her her ID. So
she carried her stuff around in there, and that stuff is missing.
Mm-hmm. Nothing has been found.
Well, and you mentioned a bank card. Has her bank account been touched or any money missing out of there or anything?
Not a penny of it. So when my mother started being sick, I used to help her with her finances. And on my phone, we opened the app on my phone so I can help her pay her bills. So she didn't know how to do it electronically. She only knew the old-fashioned money order thing. But when she was with us, it was just easier for me to pay online. So I was able to open my phone, and I'm looking every month. Since July 6th, not a penny has come out that woman's account.
Huh. And it would be a clue to go on if there was, but it's got to be frustrating not having any kind of, thing to go on, because that might point in the right direction of where police should be looking.
Even call the bank, and because she was medical, we try and see if she went to any hospitals under her welfare benefit card. Not
no,
literally absolutely nothing.
And now here we are a year later, and still no real answers.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of reward, as far as being offered in the case?
I was trying to ask the detective how to do that. He didn't get back at me, but yes, we would put a $5,000 reward for any contact that leads to her being found. They could be anonymous. They can tell us up front, but yes, there is a $5,000. We have $5,000 saved up at this moment, ready to give it to anyone who can tell us where she's at.
And who should they call? Should they call the Crime Stoppers hotline?
They can call anywhere. They can send an email. They can call me. They can text me. They can call me from a payphone. I don't know if Crime Stopper. I don't know how to get in contact with them and see if they want to tell me what I'm supposed to do. But it's there. I don't know how I'm supposed to get that money out to anyone, but we have it.
Sure. And I know the Crime Stoppers number we'll give out is 800-577-TIPS. Do you have any kind of Facebook page or social media page set up for your mom?
No, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I just post on every missing page that I can.
Yeah. It may be helpful to have a dedicated missing persons page for your mom's case. And that one, people can share it in her area, especially. They'll read about it and then share it, and then maybe someone along the way hears something or sees something or remembers seeing your mom. It might be worth trying to do that. And if you decide that you want to down the line, just send me the link, and I'll be happy to put it in the show so people can find that page.
Sure will. I'll get on that today.
Well, Tayana, I want to thank you for coming on to discuss your mom's case. I know this has not been an easy year for you and your family, and I hope somehow, some way that you're able to figure out what happened to your mom and get some answers.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, please contact the appropriate authorities.
If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will help us grow and bring these cases to a larger audience. You can also help us by taking a moment to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get early access to ad-free episodes of the show and any bonus content.
In this episode, we'd like to thank Catherine Haynes. Your Patreon support also goes towards helping the missing, because every dollar that we earn through Patreon will be split with charlieproject.org, the wonderful website that's been sharing information about so many missing persons cases for years. We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder that new episodes of Missing Persons air every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Facebook for Missing Persons Podcast. And we're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can find us on our website, missingpersonspodcast.net. As we wrap up this episode, we'd like to play a preview of a true crime podcast we think you'll like. It's called Reverie True Crime. Be sure to give it a listen. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.
Reverie, the state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts, a daydream. But what if those daydreams turn to nightmares? Reverie True Crime shines a light on the dark tragedies that have happened and are continuing to happen all throughout the world. We interview and work with families to bring awareness to forms of injustice. We explore the depths of cases from around the world to include missing persons, mysteries, and more. Reverie True Crime is found wherever you're listening to this podcast. Remember, you don't have to live in fear, but stay aware of your surroundings. Stay safe and take care.
Missing Persons is produced under the name AbJack Entertainment by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt. It's hosted and edited by Mike Morford, with research and writing by Jessica Betancourt. Be sure to listen every other Saturday for an all-new episode of Missing Persons.